Welcome back. We're here with Luke, who works with some of the top business people, and he's also in the sales space. Luke, how are
Yep.
you doing today?
I'm awesome, dude. Thank you so much for having me on. It's good to see you again.
Of course, bro. It's awesome to chat. It's been a little bit, and like I just mentioned, your podcast that you had me on 2, 3 years ago was actually a big influence into the way I ask my questions and the things that I'm doing now with this. So I just want to say thank you for that as well. Before we get going a little bit.
Yeah.
But so you started your entrepreneur journey a while ago. How did this journey begin for you?
Yeah, good question. It started, man, when I got to college. So growing up, I was a basketball player. I always wanted to be a college athlete, and that was my identity. There was nothing else. It was, I am a basketball player. This is who I'm attached to. And when I got to college, there was, a sickness going around where, people had to wear these masks, and it was this really weird thing going on. And we had no fans. And so there was no validation coming from the thing that I had attached my whole identity from or two. And I got to that point, and as soon as I didn't get the validation from the thing I built my whole life to be, I realized that's not even who I want to be. I was only doing it because I was addicted to the validation of it. So then I said, you know what? This isn't even me. Who am I? And the first time I ever asked that question, who am I? Who do I want to be? I just started crying. Like I literally broke down. I remember crying in the shower of like, I don't know. I've never asked myself this question before. Who am I? I don't know. I've just wasted the past 18 years of my life. And it was at that point I started really searching and exploring, and it just ignited this journey of, who do I want to be? And I realized what I really want is to be unique. I want to be authentic. And what I really wanted, the next layer of the journey was I want freedom. I don't want to be tied down to college. I don't want to be tied down to a job. I want to be able to live in a state of freedom. And so that journey led me to explore, how do I make money online? How do I do this? And from there, man, it just kind of took me into this entrepreneurship world, and here we are, man. That's really how it got started.
Yes. And I love how you kind of questioned yourself at the beginning of like, I've done this for 18, 19 years of my life. Who am I? Like, do I really want to do this? Is this what I really want to get into?
Yeah.
And what mindset shift do you think people need to make before they start scaling and growing their business?
Honesty. It all starts there, man. It's knowing yourself and understanding that you can't live from the external out. You can't live from, hey, what are other people going to think of me if I do this? Hey, how do I get rich? How do I be confident? It all starts from internally, like, what do I want? You don't gain confidence, you don't gain all these things externally, you don't gain purpose. You unlock it. You understand what it is that you actually desire. And it wasn't until I just sat with myself and just said, you know what? As cool as you've tried to make yourself seem, I don't feel very cool. And you may think I'm cool externally because I've built that image, but I don't feel cool. And I don't care what you guys think anymore. I want to know what I think. And I think once I made that shift of like, okay, you know, do I really care what you guys think, or do I just want to do what makes me happy, what brings me joy? And so if you're looking to scale a business, it's going to start with the internal reflection of like, hey, do I have the skills? Do I have the commitment? Do I have the hunger? Do I really want this business, or do I want to be an entrepreneur because I want people to think I'm rich and successful? And I think a lot of entrepreneurs get into it. So like, it's cool. It's a trend to be an entrepreneur. And I don't think a lot of people understand, what it actually means and what it's going to come with. So to answer your question in one sentence, it starts with honesty. Just starts there.
I like that, and I really like how you mentioned a lot of people get into entrepreneurship because they think it's cool. They see the Lambos, but I think when that honeymoon phase goes away, and you wake up 4 or 5 months later, and you're like, "Do I really want to run this construction business? Do I really want to run this business?" And I think a lot of people, they say they really want to succeed, and they say they want these riches and these things, but they
Yeah.
aren't willing to put in the work. And I really like how you mentioned that. And what is one thing about helping influencers grow that energizes you the most?
The biggest thing that energizes me is seeing somebody have a breakthrough. And when I say breakthrough, it's anytime you have this mental barrier broken and you go, oh my gosh, I've been holding myself back this whole time. So, in terms of growth, what I like to see is all of a sudden someone goes, oh my gosh, I've been blaming all these external factors on my lack of success. Oh, it's the leads. Oh, it's the algorithm. Oh, it's, my parents, oh, it's all these things. And I'm like, although that is a factor, we can put that into consideration. Most of the time, 99% of the time, it's a limiting belief they have. They're not putting in the work. They don't believe in themselves. And what I really love is seeing people understand that and take their power back. Because I think with, just where we are right now with social media, the internet, everything is so externalized. It's all about what's your grid, what's your feed, what's your content, what's your
Mm-hmm.
brand, what's your message. And it's like, yes, those are important, but it starts here. It doesn't start from figuring that stuff out first. You have to figure out who you are, and then you craft your message from that. I think too many people are teaching, well, you got to know your message, you got to know your strategy. And I'm like, that's great, but do you know yourself? Because you can't craft a message about you and your brand if you don't even know who your brand is to begin with. So I think that's what really inspires me, is seeing people, and I almost feel like I'm turning the flashlight on in their consciousness, in their brain. I'm like, hey, look, like the answers are right there, man. Like you don't need to go look externally. You don't need another course. You need to go internally and figure out what is it you want to share, and the answers are already there.
Yes, I like that. And what separates you from your competition in the sales space?
Yeah, the first thing is I understand hypnotic language. I work with a guy named Marshall Silver. He's a stage hypnotist, so I understand what makes people tick. I understand how to get people to come to a conclusion in their brain and have them believe it was their idea, not mine. So an example is basically I craft my language in a way that it creates a vague vacuum. So I'll give you an example. I'll use this. Actually, I can't tell you that yet. So can you see my hand?
Yep.
Refreshing, thirst quenching, delicious. What was thirst quenching, refreshing, and delicious?
Water.
The cup, right? Whatever was in the cup.
Yeah.
Now, why would I communicate in a way where I created a vacuum in your brain and then I filled the space so you came to the conclusion? Why wouldn't I just say, hey, this is really thirst quenching, refreshing, delicious? The reason I do that is if I tell you something, you automatically are going to question it. Your brain has a critical factor. It's your conscious mind that goes, I don't know. You have to prove that. I don't know what's in the cup. Like, I don't know if you're lying to me. Like, what's your motive? What's your intention? You have a critical conscious mind that's always analyzing and judging, like, hey, what is this guy saying? Does it make sense? If I create it's basically like an algebra problem. I say, hey, 1 plus x equals 2. And then you go, oh, well, x equals 1. You have no conscious mind that's going to analyze that. So it's just going straight past your conscious mind and you're accepting it as truth. So when I filled the space, your brain goes, oh, the cup. That's what's refreshing, thirst quenching. You don't question if the cup's thirst quenching. You just go, oh, I figured it out, because we always like to feel like we're accomplishing something. So I crafted my language. Obviously, this is a dumb little example. In a sales setting, I can craft my language in a way that allows you to come to the conclusion that, hey, this is what I need to get to the next level, as opposed to me trying to be pushy and tell you, hey, you need to do this, you need to buy, like, don't be weak, like, don't push. Hey, I just craft my language in a way that allows you to come to that conclusion. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. I think a lot of salespeople are trying to learn the next tactic to push you and force you, to pressure you into buying something. I don't ever pressure.
I like that approach because I agree with you. Everyone's always learning the objections or what to say or like how to get them to like buy this way or do this. But I like how you let them come to the conclusion, and if they want to do it, then they do it, and if they don't, then they don't. You're not over here trying to, I guess, force them to buy. And kind of on that same kind of road, you also document a lot of your calls, to kind of look back on and review that language that you do use. Why do you think that is so important?
Yeah, I mean, rehearse, review, revise. I mean, that's literally, you should live by that motto. Anything you do, you always want to look back and be like, hey, where can I be better? Also, just there's something about looking at your own, like when you watch your own videos, you're like, oh my gosh, like I sounded like that,
Yeah.
or oh my gosh, like why am I like looking so inauthentic? Why do I look so uncomfortable? And if you never do that, you're probably not going to just sit down and think about the videos. Hey, was I feeling authentic in that video? Was I sounding good? Did I use the right language? Like, no one really thinks about that. So the only way to force yourself to go internally, because I have a ton of resistance to going internally my whole life. Like I always do. And every time that I have a big shift in my life, it's when I just stop and I just go internally. And one way to just force yourself to go internal is make content, because you have to watch yourself every single day, and you get to see these hate comments, you get to see no likes on a video, you get to see lots of likes. It just forces me to go internally. And so the reason I document is I want to be able to look back and be like, oh wow, I've grown a lot. And it just forces me to go, okay, dude, like you're coming across way too egotistical, or oh, hey, you're coming across way too whatever. It just forces me to really review who it is that I'm showing up as.
Yes. And you also posted on Instagram that you can't serve others until you serve yourself. Could you unpack that?
Yeah, dude. I think too many people are trying to give advice when they haven't really used the advice yet. And to be honest, you need to fill your own cup up. The other thing I see is people who are too nice. They never actually go after what they want in life because they don't want to be considered selfish. And I think the most unselfish thing you can do is be selfish to start. So figure out what it is that's going to keep you alive. Just like, dude, when you're on a plane, what's the thing they say? Put your mask on first and then help others, even kids and children. You got to put yours on first. If you don't serve yourself first, if you don't get yourself to a position where at least your bills are paid and you're experiencing some joy in the career you're doing, you don't have much to give because you're just surviving. So I don't want people to survive and then try to be this, Mother Teresa. It's hard to do that. You're going against the will. What you need to do is get yourself to where you're flowing and what your purpose really is. And now you're overflowing in love, overflowing in money, overflowing in abundance. And you're just like, the natural progression of that is when you get to that point where you're fulfilled, you just want to give to others. You just want other people to experience this because you're like, oh my gosh, I remember what it was like to suffer. I remember all the trials and tribulations I've been through, and now I'm in a place where I'm really feeling joy. When people say humans are inherently bad, I don't believe that. I think we're actually inherently good. Because think about when we get to a place where we're feeling joy, what does everyone want to do? Call someone, talk to someone, help someone. That's all we want to do. We just want to help, right? So when I got to this point where I'm like, you know what? I'm in a good flow. I just want to help other people. It started because, first of all, I said, I'm not where I want to be. So I started internally. I said, I was honest with myself at college. I'm not where I want to be. I have nothing. So I figured out how to get myself to a place where I was doing what I wanted to do. And now I'm in a position where I just want to give back. I just want to help others as I'm continuing to grow myself, but I want to give back. So you have to fill your cup up so you're overflowing, so you even have something to give to other people.
I couldn't agree more. I agree. And to go a little bit personal here, back
Sure.
in 2019, you received your first Division One offer from the University of Northern Illinois. Could
Yep.
you walk me through the feelings that you were experiencing during this?
Yeah, man, you must have gone through my Twitter. That's funny. Yeah, dude. Again, that was my whole life. That was everything to me, man. I mean, at that time, it was egotistical for sure. It was like, oh my gosh, yes, I got the validation that I'm looking for. I remember walking into school and everyone congratulating me, and I was just like, oh, I'm the man, I'm the man. And still, you just don't feel fulfilled. It's like, okay, I got one. Can I get two? Well, there's other people who have more, and it's just this constant comparison game. So, although I got it, it was a very short-lived feeling, and at the moment, I didn't know that. But now looking back, I realized it was so short-lived, and it was a great feeling when I got it, man. It was awesome. That was my dream. It's like I worked so hard to get here, and now I got it. And then quickly realized, like, hey, this isn't really that fulfilling anyway. So it was a very eye-opening experience for sure.
Yes. And what's your opinion on depression, and do you think it's real?
It's definitely real. This is a fun one. So I definitely believe depression is real. The people who live in that sorrow consistently, I just say, hey, you have power over it. I feel depressed all the time. Like there's days I feel depressed. There's moments I feel depressed. I'm sure I'll probably feel depressed at some time today, like for a split moment, but I'll reframe it. I'll notice it quickly because that's where I'm at in life. Like I have the awareness to say, okay, I'm feeling a little down. Why? And question it. And it all comes down to your beliefs and your frames. And this is something I teach called internal influence. And it applies directly to sales and influence as well, because you can't influence somebody if you're not able to influence yourself on that level. So, example, if I haven't been able to overcome depression, I can't show someone else how to overcome depression.
Yeah.
I can't try to motivate them. Hey, snap out of it. Hey, you're good. Life's good, man. I can't, because that won't help them. What will help them is what helped me, because we're all the same. We're all from the one source. So we all have the same types of thoughts. And what's interesting is, let's say a depressing thought comes up. What most people do is they judge that initial thought. Hey, poor you, I'm sad. Okay. We judge that. We go, oh man, a confident person or a happy person wouldn't have this thought, right? We judge that. And that's not the truth. Everyone has those thoughts. The people who aren't depressed, they go, oh, caught it. Interesting thought. How do I reframe this? I'm feeling a little down. Okay. Am I doing something in my life right now that's not fulfilling? Am I stressed out from a relationship? Like, what's going on? So you can reframe your thought, you catch it, and then you have power over it. You can control the next thought. Or if another example I use a lot is like, okay, you're in a social situation, you're at a party, and you want to go talk to a girl. The first thought that comes up is you're nervous, right? And now someone would judge themselves who doesn't have the awareness, go, oh man, like I'm not confident. Confident people don't have nervous thoughts. And it's like, no, everyone has nervous thoughts. The people who are confident just say, oh, wow, that's an interesting thought, but let me give it a different thought. I
Yes.
respond back to that thought. I say, you know what? I am nervous. And what if that's the girl that's literally supposed to be my wife? And if I don't even say hello, I'm never going to know. So I'm just going to say, screw it. So we have power over that. We have influence internally over that. So is depression real? Absolutely, it's real. It's an emotion. It's a thought that you get stuck in. And I've been stuck in it many times. When I was in college, that was where I was at. And I was stuck there for a while. And it wasn't until I went internally and said, hey, I actually have power over this, which the reason it's hard to get out of that when you're depressed, because you don't want to take responsibility for it. The last thing you want to do is put in effort to try to get over your depression. And when someone tells you it's internally, it's actually on you, when your depression is caused by blaming everything external, it's a clash of beliefs. It's a literal clash of beliefs. Someone's telling you, hey, it's internal. You need to get out of that. And yet you're just like, no, it's because this, and this, my parents, my job, my life, this, my girlfriend broke up with me. It's all these external things. So it's a clash of beliefs. And it isn't until you finally say, hey, enough's enough. How do I get rid of this? It is on me. I have control. No one's coming to save me. Right? That's usually what most people are doing. They're hoping someone comes and saves them.
Yeah.
So it's a change of beliefs that you have, and you have to be able to reframe and say, hey, I'm having depressing thoughts, but I actually have control over that. And it starts with no judgment, self-love, saying, hey, I understand you're depressed. I love you. You're good. I'm here for you, man. Like, I got you. Self-love. And then 3, it's having that next thought of being like, hey, I'm depressed, and then giving yourself a better, more empowering thought.
And for someone that is in that beginning stage of just struggling with mental health altogether, how do they start to build self awareness?
Mm-hmm. I think it starts not only with journaling and meditation and understanding the consciousness of who you are. That's big. I also think it starts with having alignment in your say-do ratio, is what I call it. So you say you're going to go to the gym at 6 a.m. You need to go to the gym at 6 a.m. because every time you don't, you get out of alignment. I think there's like a little 7-year-old in us, and every time you don't do what you say you're going to do, he's just like, dude, like, I lost trust in you. You told me we're going to do this, and now we're not. So you're out of alignment. To build self-awareness, it's hard. There's not like one tool you can do. It really just starts with the word honesty. Are you actually happy? Are you actually enjoying what you're doing in life? Are you actually confident? And if you ask yourself these questions over and over again, eventually you'll be honest with yourself, because you're like, okay, look, I can keep lying to myself that I'm confident my whole life. And yet every time I go in a social situation, I'm stressed because I'm trying to maintain this image. I'm trying to say the right thing, and it's stressful. Going in public and being social should be fun.
Yeah.
You're just experiencing other people. There's no competition. It's collaboration. So it's a different frame in which you're experiencing reality. You can be in, oh, I need to be better than this guy. I need to be more attractive. I need to be, sharper with my words. Or you can say, no, like, I'm just collaborating with other humans. Like, we're just having fun. Hey, what's going on? Like, there's no pressure. If they don't want to talk to you, all good. There's plenty of people in the world. So I think coming from that switch of frame is really important as well.
And I really like how you said about being able to just enjoy life, enjoy the experience,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people, including myself in the past, and even sometimes now, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do things, and that
Yeah.
actually makes us screw up more,
Yeah.
stutter more or mess up more when we put that pressure on ourselves. And what do you think about seed oils that are in our food?
Yeah, dude, I'm totally against all of that. I won't even eat anything with seed oil. So I'm extremely extreme on that. I remember when I was still living at home, and I literally told my mom, like, once you wake up to it and you start
Yes.
looking at all the labels, you're like, oh my gosh,
Yes.
everything has seed oils in it. And it's funny how you almost get looked at from society as like, oh, you're an extremist. Oh, it's just oil. I'm like, dude, like, if you just put like 5 minutes of research into this, you'd see all the scientific studies of how bad this stuff is. So it almost baffles me how people, and I'm not judging, it's just a discernment, how little effort people want to put into actually understanding the truth. And again, that comes down to having the awareness to go internally. People don't like to face the truth because it becomes more responsibility. And if you're suffering in life, the last thing you want is more responsibility. When you're truly in your element of joy, you want more responsibility because it's more ability for you to be in better alignment. So the more responsibility, the better.
And I mean, what about just turning around the food label? I mean,
Right.
like it's really that simple, like just start off like, hey, can I pronounce this word? Like,
Yeah.
what's this random chemical that's in my food? And I
Yeah.
have two more questions for you.
Yeah.
Why do you think bad things happen to good people?
Why do I think bad things happen to good people? Well, I believe everything has to be in balance. So I believe there can't be good without the bad. And I believe because there is a higher power that created and manifested this reality, it can't exist without the other. And if there's only good, this life would be really freaking boring because we'd know every single outcome of the life. And there would be no point in living if there was no bad. And so I respect the bad just as much as the good. And it's funny I'm saying that. That's actually kind of a breakthrough for me as I'm saying this. Because I think I judge the bad so many times. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in a bad rut again. I'm like, what is going on with me? Like, this shouldn't be happening. And yet it has to happen because if I don't have bad experiences, I don't know what a good experience is. So there has to be good things that happen. There has to be bad things that happen. And if God just created this world where it's like, it's just good, I think, in a religious text, they talk about this time where it's all good all the time. And it's going to be like this, golden streets where you're just living good all the time. Like, that sounds great in a fantasy world, but you know exactly what's going to happen. Is that really an experience? Or is that just like mind control? Like that wouldn't be enjoyable. And that's hard for people to wrap around. They're like, oh no, I would not, I would want a life with no bad. It's like, I get that, but there's really no point in living if you know exactly what's happening next. So to answer your question, the reason there has to be bad, there has to be. Like you don't know what good is if there's no bad. So you have to have, you don't know what cold is if you don't know what hot is. Like there has to be a scale. There has to be a polarity in order for us to exist.
Yes. One more question.
Yeah.
If you could have dinner with two people, one person from the past and one person from the present, who would it be and why?
Oh man. From the past and from the present, you said?
Yes.
I would like to speak to Elon Musk right now for sure. Just because I know he understands where the world's heading. Like he's just so ahead of the time, and I'd love to just understand what's actually happening in terms of like where we could end up going. I also would love to kind of go down the rabbit hole with him of like, hey, I've been down all the rabbit holes of like, hey, where's the power coming from? Can we like what can we do? Like how do we actually go about this? And I don't know if he's good or evil. I'm not sure. But I think I could tell through a conversation for sure. So present, I'd love to talk to Elon Musk. Past, Jesus Christ for sure, because I'm not religious, but I truly believe in what he was doing. And he just was so ahead of our times. And I'm not going to get too into my beliefs on that, but he embodied true love. And no matter what happened, even when people were killing him, he said, forgive them for they know not what they do. When someone's killing you and you're still just like, I love you, I get it, it's okay, like you don't really mean that, you're out of alignment, you're out of where you're supposed to be. There's some stuff to learn there, there's a lot to unpack there. And
Yes.
I think if Jesus was here right now, he'd say, guys, you're missing the whole point. You're missing the whole point. I'm not the religion. I'm the embodiment of love. I'm the embodiment of God. And I came here to tell you that, but
Yes.
you guys are listening, but you're not hearing. You're looking, but you're not seeing. You're not getting it. I'm telling you to embody who I'm embodying. When he says, I am Christ, he's not saying I'm God. He's saying, embody me. I have the consciousness of God. You do too. And people don't really understand that. And it's just such a deep understanding that most people don't comprehend. So I would absolutely love to talk to Jesus.
I like this too.
Yeah.
Well, Luke, that's all the questions I have. How can people find you, and what is one thing you want to leave people with?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, just Luke Scheffers. It's Scheffers. One thing I would leave everybody with is take a look at how you're influencing yourself, because you can't influence other people. You can't go build a business. You can't get the girl of your dreams if you can't control yourself. And so I'd say number one, give yourself some love. If you're listening to this today, like, hey, like literally, the last thing I put in my journal every day is, dude, I love you. And I say that literally as if I'm a third person writing with myself. I love you. We're good. I'm really proud of all the things that you're doing. Like, give yourself that love. Fill your cup up internally. The second thing is understand that reality is subjective and that you get to create the reality that you live. If you believe life is hard, it is hard for you. If you believe life is easy, it is easy, because what you focus on expands. When you look through the frame of, life is easy, your brain finds the ways to validate how easy life is for you. And then when you catch yourself finding ways to validate it's hard, you catch that and you go back to your frame of life is easy. And now people say, oh, that's delusional. I go, yeah, that's the point. It is delusional. You get to create this reality. There's nothing right or wrong about how you're experiencing it. It's just your choice. So choose the belief that best serves you, empower yourself, and that's how you attract things. That's the law of attraction. You're focusing on the things you want to expand. You focus on all the ways you're abundant. You focus on all the ways that you're happy, you're confident, and you get more of those. Because there's tons of ways to feel depressed. There's tons of ways to feel poor in this life. There's also tons of ways to feel rich. There's tons of ways to feel happy, and they're already out there. You're just like this little remote control, and you're like, okay, which one do I want to actually turn my frequency into? You get the choice. So I want to empower you with that, and go internally and say, hey, where do I have beliefs that aren't serving me? And where can I reprogram myself to go find things that are going to serve me best?
I like that a lot. Well, Luke, thank you so much for coming on. It was a great conversation. And as always, man, I appreciate you.
My pleasure, bro. Much love.